Welcome to the Hard Truth Podcast. This is Jeremy Fouts. Today we are going to be talking about teaching your kids about nutrition. I know on this podcast we definitely talk about nutrition and fitness a lot. And the reason so is that's my passion. And, I see a lot of families that don't understand the importance of teaching your kids about nutrition. And when I launched the company Core Vive, one of my main passions for this is to build a community and educate people on how to incorporate not only nutrition for yourself, but incorporate it for a family. And that is something that is very important to me. As all of you know, I have a 17-year-old and a 15-year-old son. And I'm telling you, it is so critical. Yes, they're athletes, but even if your kids are not athletes, even if they're in band, gymnastics, of course, is an athlete. But something else, it's so important. And I'm going to go over why it's so important to teach your kids about nutrition. What prompted me to do this podcast today, I was asked to speak tonight, actually, at Prosper High School football team, and the parents are going to be there, about 600 different people. And I've been engaging a lot with a lot of athletes over the last year and a half, 2 years, trying to help them. And the lack of knowledge of an athlete, and also from a parent standpoint about understanding nutrition, and really and truly, the only way you can unlock the full potential of who you are, who your kids are, is understanding nutrition. Now, I obviously, own a nutrition company. I'm not going to be talking about our products that we offer here at Core Vive. I'm going to just talk about the basics of understanding nutrition and why it's so important. So let's get started. Let's go! What up? I'll start off by telling a story. And a lot of you know I was raised on a farm and a ranch in Oklahoma. And I had a good friend, and he was one of my better friends. And I'm not going to share with you his name, but he was a very large individual. And about 12 or 13 years old, he asked me to come, after church, in between church. We grew up in a time where you went to church on Sunday morning and Sunday night. And so we went to his house after church on Sunday morning. And now, growing up at my family, after Sunday lunch, mom and dad took a nap, but us boys, we went out and just stayed outside the whole day. I mean, doing something outside. Well, I went over to his house, and after lunch, we ate again. We watched movies. We ate again. And I'm talking about Doritos, Ding Dongs, Twinkies, on and on and on. Now, my friend was a very large person. And what's sad about this is his dad had passed away with a heart attack, and he was a large person. His mom is a very large person. His grandma he lived with is a very large person, and his brother is a very large person. So the reason for me pointing that out, a lot of people, they think, well, it's just bad genetics. And, I'm not going to get into this whole debate about bad genetics, good genetics. But what I've learned in 25 years of being a nutrition is the majority is not linked to genetics. The majority is linked towards lifestyle. So that alone should wake you up in your household and go look at your pantry, look at your refrigerator, and think, man, am I doing a good job educating my kids? And see, what I love about this subject here, the only way for you to be a good teacher is for you to be a student and learn it yourself. That way you can teach your kids. Yes, you can listen to a podcast like the Hard Truth Podcast. There's thousands of other ones to learn and to experience, the things that you need to do to teach your kids. But I'm telling you, the best way is to put things into practice. So let me get started here. I always jump ahead. But why is it so important for childhood eating patterns? It's because it's going to shape their long-term health. And I'm telling you, you look at the families. I just gave you an example of a man that passed away with a heart attack, being obese. He passed on those same habits to his wife, and his wife adopted those habits. She's obese. The two sons are obese, and he's not here to enjoy the kids. So I'm telling you, it's very important for you to understand the education you give your kids about nutrition at home is long lasting. It's probably going to be passed on to their generation and to the next generation. So understanding that. Also, the impact of poor nutrition has a big reflection on energy, mood, and focus. I'll never forget when Pearson, my 17-year-old, was about 5 or 6. We had a hard time. He dealt with allergies a lot. We had a hard time with getting him to eat enough food. So if we was doing a physical activity and he started having a meltdown, it was very easy for me to see that, okay, he needs nutrition. His blood sugars has dropped. We're going to have to get some grapes in him. We're going to have to get some protein in him to bring up his mood, bring up his focus. And I'm telling you, the nutrition in kids make a huge difference in their energy, mood, and their focus. Now, what are some of the things that we can do? I've got 8 different points here, actually 9 more that I'm going to share with you. First thing that we do as a family, and we've did for years and years, is we meal prep with our kids. We talk to them about the good proteins, about the good fats, about the good carbs, when we need the good carbs before a workout, when we need more good carbs is after the workout to replenish the glucose. And we talk about, the reason for protein and what protein does, the reason that we need the good fats. So that is the first thing I'll tell you is start having these discussions with your kids. So let's start off with number 2. One of the things that I think is very important for not only us as adults, but also for the kids is teach them food is fuel. And one of the things that we have done in this society is we have made food as a market center for profit. I mean, if you go look at the Fruit Loops, they've got the pretty cartoons. You go look at the veggie chips that Beckett brought home the other day. It says veggies, and all these different things. And I'm going to talk about this later in the point. But I'm telling you, you've got to teach them that food is fuel. And I'm telling you, you've got to let them know that when you run out of fuel, your performance is literally nothing. In this presentation that I'm doing tonight for the football team, at the end of the presentation, one of the visuals that I'm giving them is I'm giving them a red car at a racetrack that has 875 horsepower and it has an 18-gallon tank. And then I'm giving them a blue car that is 850 horsepower and a 21-gallon tank. And I'm going to ask the football team, which one do you think is going to win a few laps around this track? And every one of them is going to pick the higher horsepower. But the car that's going to win is the one that has the most fuel. So start teaching your kids that we got to choose these foods as a fuel source. We're not going to just choose the food because it tastes good. We're not going to choose the food because it comes in a pretty box. You got to teach them that food is fuel. Another very important thing you need to teach them is nutrition affects their energy levels, their brain function, and athletic performance. I was reading an article probably about 6 months ago talking about if you eat 2 eggs a day, it increases your IQ by this much percentage. If you ate the 2 eggs versus the Fruit Loops, it's going to make a difference. So they have got to know that we're choosing the eggs over the Fruit Loops, and here's why. And give them the different examples of how a protein-packed breakfast improves their school performance and then also is going to improve their athletic performance. And encourage them, guys, to eat food as that fuel rather than we're just going to eat it because it tastes good. So understand that principle, food is fuel. Another point is making sure that they understand the sugar trap. Sugar sneaks in to kids' foods everywhere. I go play lacrosse, or don't play lacrosse, go watch my son Beckett play lacrosse. And in between games, it is mind-blowing the sweets that just flood, the lacrosse field for the snacks. The cookies, the gummy bears, the Gatorades with sugars and dyes, all these different things. And you've got to teach them that, look, A little bit of sugar at a certain time is maybe a good thing. It can give us a little bit of energy, but we can't just have only sugar. And we can't just choose the processed sugars. We can't just choose the foods with all the dyes in them. Make sure that they know if all we do is consume the sugar, you're going to have an energy crash. You're going to have poor focus. You're going to over long term, maybe introduce some obesity into the situation if that's continuing to be our food of choice. But give them good practical swaps instead, like the grapes, like the watermelon, all the different good sweets that come from fruit versus them processed sugars. Number 4 is understand that building strong bodies and teaching your kids that our purpose here is to build a strong body. So these foods are what's going to help us. The importance of the protein, the importance of the healthy fats, and the essential vitamins. And let them know that good nutrition is going to support the growth, not only linear, but also in their strong bones and muscle development. But these kids are our responsibility to educate them on we're trying to build strong bodies here. Just like with this race car, if I put in fuel that is loaded with, bad fuel like sand or dirt or water in the fuel, it's not going to perform. Our body is the same way. So make simple ways for you to ensure your kids get that well-balanced meal of carbs, fats, and protein. Number 5 is hydration matters. Many kids don't drink enough water, and most of them don't drink any good electrolytes. I feel like Core Vive has the best. And let them know the benefits of hydration. It's better focus, improved digestion, fewer headaches. Most headaches are brought on from dehydration. And I can tell you that if I pulled 100 kids off that lacrosse field, 85, 90 of them is going to be dehydrated. So let them know the importance of water and good electrolytes. Stay away from the sodas on game day. Stay away from the sodas on the pre-game day, the day before, because caffeine and sugar, caffeine has a purpose, but caffeine also is a diuretic. So if they're just consuming caffeine and not water and electrolytes, they're going to become dehydrated. Number 6 is teach your kids how to read labels. Now, depending on how old your kids are, you're probably not going to, if they're 5, try to break it down a whole lot. But one of the things that I teach my kids, I gave an example the other day. One of my sons, oldest one, Pearson, loves these little bitty yogurts, and they are loaded with seed oils. And I'm like, hey, we're going to stay away from that. Here's what you need to look for. I explained it to him, and he's like, okay, I got it. And he's looking at different other options for food, and he sees the seed oils in that. He sees the artificial sweeteners in the yogurt, and he's like, okay, we're going to stay away from this. And I teach them why we're going to stay away from this. So teach your kids how to spot the hidden sugars, the artificial ingredients, and all the misleading claims. And if you start with that young, then I promise you're setting up a lifestyle for them to continuously understand what they're putting in their body. Number 7, and this is going to hit a lot of you hard, the best way to teach your kids is you got to lead by example. See, kids mirror what they see. And parents must walk what they're talking. My family, we all about mealtime. We're shaping our lifelong habits. That's 100% of what we're doing. And the small changes that parents make to model a healthy eating is going to be carried on to their kids. That's why we do meal prep as a family. That's why we talk about the meals at the family. Last night, Beckett and I went striper fishing about a month ago with his friend. I took him and his friend, and we caught a lot of striper. So last night we had fish, and we talked about that experience, and we talked about, he Googled how much protein is in the striper. He weighed out how much he was getting of that striper. He figured up how much protein he was getting. He's looking at dad's doing the same thing. But if you model that, that is the best way to teach these kids. If you're eating a double cheeseburger and drinking a beer, I promise you it's going to be hard to teach your kids about fueling the body with the right nutrition. Number 8, this is something that we do, and I've already mentioned this, is teaching your kids how to cook. I've taught my boys as an athlete that it's dad's and mom's responsibility to try to provide, to have the groceries in the refrigerator, to have the right groceries in the pantry. But if mom and dad's on a business meeting on Saturday morning and we're not able to be there and we let them sleep in till 8:30 or 9 o'clock, then I can tell you it's their responsibility to go to the fridge, grab a couple eggs, put some butter in a skillet, make them a couple eggs, take them a sourdough, put them some butter on it, put them a little bit of honey if they're about to go get a workout in for the natural sugar, and teaching them how to drink a protein shake, how to mix it up. It's pretty simple. My boys, I don't have to teach them now. It's just automatic, but depending on how old your kids are. But teach them how to cook. My boys, they're part of cooking unless one of them's at baseball still. They might miss out on the cooking, but then they're going to cook. They're going to clean the dishes. But teaching them that this is a family, which we are a team, and you've got to be responsible for what goes into your food. And mom and dad is going to model that, but then you've got to take up on that responsibility to know what you're putting in your mouth. But teaching them that independence is what I'm trying to get at. And the appreciation for food, because if they understand its fuel, they're going to feel a difference. And they've got to learn what foods make them perform better, what foods make them focus better, what foods are going to get them to be more focused on their academics. But cook with your kids and teach them how to cook. Now, Beckett, for some reason, has learned to bake more than cook, and sometimes his chocolate chip cookies is maybe not a perfect example of what I'm talking about. But they love to cook, and teach your kids how to cook. Number 9 is teach your kids the marketing manipulation, which I've already hit on this with the veggie chips that Beckett brought home from a friend's house. I've already talked about this with Pearson and his yogurt, that loved the taste of yogurt, but he failed to look at the label and see the seed oils and to see the artificial sweeteners. But the food companies, guys, they trick kids into unhealthy choices. So don't let the flashy packaging and the buzzwords like natural, because it can just be misleading. But teaching them critical thinking when they're choosing the right foods, and that'll make a big difference in their lifestyle. And then number 10 is empowering the kids to choose wisely. See, you got to shift from eat this, not that, to why this matters. Give kids the ownership over their food decisions. Teach them, look, you can eat those 4 brownies and no protein and no good carbs and no good fats, but here's the way you're going to feel, and here's how you're going to perform. You've got to teach them, let's get our good proteins in first. That way we're guaranteeing that we're getting 1 pound of body weight, or 1 gram of protein per 1 pound of body weight. We got our protein in. Now let's go get our carbs in. Now let's get our fats in. Then if you want a brownie and they're very active, you know what, and we made it at home and it's not loaded full of a bunch of bad stuff, then that's okay. We'll get that brownie if that's what they want. I'm not saying totally deprive your kids, but teaching them why we want our proteins first. If we ate the brownie first, we're not going to want our protein. If we ate the brownie first, we're not going to want the good carbs. We're not going to want the good fats. But teaching them how to choose wisely and what the difference that's going to make in their performance and in their education. In closing here, the hard true fact, and that's this right here, just pretty sweet and simple. But sleep, nutrition, and mindset is the way to unlock the true potential. So I'm telling you, one of my most passionate things that I love, one of the reasons I started the company Core Vive, is to educate families and to bring a community together. Teach your families to how to come together through nutrition. Teach them that this is going to be not only a difference if you go to college and maybe play a sport, but it's also going to be the biggest difference in your life through whatever it is that you try to pursue. So teach them about nutrition. Thank you guys for joining me on the Hard Truth Podcast. Share this with friends or family members, maybe that don't understand the power of nutrition. Your kids are never too young to start educating them on the truth. Thank you guys.